everyone. Thank you for being here today. My name is Nida Fatma, and this is Digital Design Talks, where we invite the creme de la creme of the creative tech industry to come and share their knowledge, insights, and the latest news on topics that surround us today. We have our guest today, Euphemia Wong, who is a lead UX lead at Relic Entertainment, a Sega-owned gaming studio in Vancouver. She's been guiding the design strategy for the much anticipated Age of Empires 4. Euphemia has a background in cognitive science, research, and web development, and she brings these fields into her data-driven approach in UX. So I'm really excited to have Euphemia here with us today. Hi, Euphemia.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Nida.
It's so great to have you. And as for our audience, thank you everybody for being here. And our last segment is a Q&A round with Euphemia, where you guys take the lead and it's your questions which Euphemia will be answering. So please go ahead and share your questions in our Q&A panel here. All righty. So I would like to jump in our pre-prepared questions, which is our first segment for right now for Euphemia. And our first question, Euphemia, is how did you get into the UX industry? Were there any kind of major milestones or anything that inspired you into this industry?
Yeah, I think when I was studying at UBC, I was studying cognitive science, cognitive psychology. And I actually didn't know what UX was at the time. That was like, back in the day when UX wasn't as much well known. So I really, started off in research mainly. So research in vision science and like human computer interaction and just understanding the psychology side of that. Yeah, eventually, I think once I graduated, I continued working in research for a bit. And then I realized, really like cognitive science and UX was really a really good pairing. And so that's how I got into the design side of things, kind of using my research background as well.
Very, very cool. And if we can get a little bit into sort of the UX side and then games. So was that like a very, you can say, fluid transition? Because UX is so open, you could have gone back into cognitive science and applied UX there. So how did the shift from cognitive psychology, UX, and now games, how did that happen?
Yeah, so when I first got into UX design, I worked a little bit in the restaurant point of sale system industry. So kind of on the B2B side, like the tech side. And then also shortly after that, I worked at Clio, which is like a law firm, like legal management software. So very different from video games. But I think eventually, I found my way into, working at EA and started off working on the FIFA mobile game. So yeah, I guess like the way I found my way into video games was just, I was curious about different opportunities, applying UX design and my skill set to like different industries and like different projects. So yeah, that's how I got into it.
Very cool. Very cool. And did you ever play any games as a child? Are you playing any games currently right now?
Yeah, so I kind of grew up playing, I guess, all the Nintendo games and also Final Fantasy, on PlayStation, a long time ago. And also, I played games on the arcade a lot growing up. But then eventually, as I got older, school and work kind of got in the way. So I haven't played a whole lot of games recently, but right now I'd say I'm playing the game Zuba on my mobile. But yeah, other than that, and also stuff at work.
Nice. Very cool. Awesome. So my next question is about something that I'm a big fan of is ladies in UX and your role in this meetup group. You've been the organizer for Vancouver for quite some time now, I believe. How long has it been?
Yeah, I think I've been organizing events for about 2 years now. What year is it? 2021. Okay, yeah, 2 years. And I think before that, I was, a part of Ladies at UX, just like as a member, and I joined a lot of their events when I first started out in this career. So, it's really fun to be able to be on the other side and help organize and do that side of things.
Yeah, and I kind of want to have you share why would you take on this additional responsibility that requires a lot of time, perhaps? I mean, I wouldn't know exactly, but I would imagine that it requires a lot of time. What was the reason behind that?
Yeah, I guess I really want to be a part of the kind of design community. And I think, like I mentioned, when I first started out in this UX career, it helped me a lot kind of getting to know like other women in the industry and like learning from them as well. So, it's really rewarding to be able to continue to do that. And kind of get to know other people like within the industry. It's like a lot of networking and a lot of like fun times. So, and I think, yes, it is quite a bit of work, but I think, this past year or so, I've had Kay and Jenny join me. They're also co-organizers. So we've really been able to work as a team and set up events together. So that's been, a lot easier on me.
Kay is a DD grad, digital design grad. I'm a big fan of Kay's.
She's awesome.
Incredible, and I loved her app that she made here at Digital Design. And we're looking at the meetup group, and would you be able to talk about some of your past events? Is there an event that resonated with you in the last year?
Yep. Yeah, so we've had like quite a few events, recently, like everything from, longitudinal studies and research specifically to like UX specific, in the games industry. And also one particular event that was really cool that we had a lot of help with from the Seattle group as well as Adobe helping us out. We organized like a portfolio review session. I think that was earlier, maybe last year, but that was super successful in that I think we had some really great feedback and pretty solid attendee group. So
very cool. What happened at this portfolio review event? How did you guys set it up?
Yeah, so we all hopped into this app called Hopin, and it's actually really good and really useful in setting up kind of like events and also like separating the groups like people into groups so that we can review portfolios, like have kind of one reviewer with like 5 kind of students, and yeah, that worked out really well.
Yeah, we use Hopin at VFS as well for our events, and it's actually very, very cool.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I'm checking this out. It's very cool. Fully sold out. All your events do get sold out. I'm noticing that being a big trend here. And then overall, like, which event do you think resonated with you the most? So ever since you've been organizing, it may or may not be here. But just to get an insight on what kind of events do you actually like, or your top favorite event when it comes to conferences, when it comes to meetup groups and people coming together and talking about UX?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think, there's certainly a lot of virtual events. I definitely really miss the in-person meetups as well, because that's all, as great as virtual events are, I really do miss the in-person aspect. But I'd say even virtually, I find the group discussion part really fun for me. I really enjoy, learning from other people when they present their awesome presentations, but also I think the group discussion at the end is really cool because then we get to talk about it together. And also that's where you get get to know other people that you wouldn't have met otherwise. So yeah, I think discussions would be.
I love this because I'm seeing two things, and I can be completely wrong, Euphemia, and you can correct me here. You grew up playing a lot of video games, and now you're working on building them. And then you've been very fond of sort of watching people talk about, this industry or different fields like cognitive psychology as well as UX. And now you are creating these events. I do see that that parallel, right? Or I wonder if this is something, or that we're seeing here, or if it's by some design. That's a strange question to ask, but it's not even a question actually. It's more like a statement, but it's I get. Is this something you're aware of yourself?
I guess I don't know if I don't think I had planned like when I was younger to like organize a meetup group or work in the games industry or like become a UX designer. I think for me it was very much about like just following like what I enjoyed and kind of continuing to discover a bit further. I think that seemed to work well for me. It was kind of scary at first, like when I was choosing what to study in school, I wasn't sure if I was picking the right thing, and it's like I don't even know what career I was going to do, like studying cognitive systems. But I think I would say like just following what you want to do or what you enjoy studying and learning. That really got me to where I became. So.
Yeah, and I think like even though like you the place where you started from was a wider lens, cognitive psychology, which has everything to do with UX. In fact, UX is like one part of cognitive psychology in some way. And that's where you start from. And then there's a little bit of that risk taking, right? Where you're not going for the pure sciences, and now you're going in a very art and entertainment industry. So that's that risk, but then you're also kind of like drawn to like a magnet, like you gravitate towards where you're supposed to be, the main home. So I'm sort of seeing that, which is really, really cool. So I also want to ask you, what's coming up next for ladies in UX? Like, are there any upcoming events lined up?
Yeah, ladies at UX, we are hoping to plan one more event for the summer months. I know during the summer, people might not want to be stuck, in virtual events. So we might like put a pause on that after that one. But hopefully, in the fall and winter, like that's kind of when we want to start things up again. And hopefully by then, like with the pandemic and restrictions and everything, things will be, much safer. And eventually we hope definitely to get back to kind of in-person meetups.
Awesome. And VFS would love to host one of these. So we need to have that chat. The next question for our prepared questions round is more along what kind of advice do you have for all our creatives out there that are listening in today? Thank you everybody for being here, joining us for this talk. In regards to also sort of like your own career trajectory, where you have like the sciences and then there's the entertainment. So do you have any advice for people that are setting up their careers in UX? Is there anything they should be mindful of?
Yeah, I think there's a few, like in terms of one side of it is kind of figuring out what kind of designer you want to be. So I think definitely like within the skill set of like design, like within the spectrum of like the design skill set, there's certainly a lot of different skills. And I think when you're first starting out, and that happened to me as well, was like I felt like pretty overwhelmed, like, oh my God, there's like all these research methods and all these like ways to wireframe a prototype and all these ways to like create visual designs. I think the important thing is kind of learning, like reading up about that whole spectrum and kind of getting a sense of, oh, what am I drawn to? And then choosing one part of it and kind of then learning from there, rather than, feeling like too overwhelmed with the whole spectrum of things and feeling like you need to meet every single job description criteria. Cause it's really just, what do you enjoy, and kind of go from there. And then I guess the other piece is when it comes to interviewing and getting that first job, or maybe it's not the first job, but getting that next UX role, whether it's research or design. I do think, portfolio is like super key. Being able to present, what it is you did and how you helped the team or the product, the project. I think that's really what hiring managers are looking for. So those would be the two pieces.
So portfolios these days, and Euphemia, I've been having really interesting conversations around portfolios, especially in the last 12 months. Is how important is it to have your portfolio on social media versus like your own site?
Like social media, like on LinkedIn, or you
LinkedIn and Instagram, Behance, other sources like Dribble or Medium, and these type of spaces or platforms, you can say.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to speak for like all the hiring managers out there, but I think from my perspective, I think it doesn't really matter too much like where your portfolio is posted or where it's created, but it's just more of like the content around it. I wouldn't focus too much around like which social media platform to share it on, but just really focus on the content and then share it when you want to apply for a job.
And how would you say, like, should one sort of refine their portfolio according to the studio, or have their, best assets and send it to everyone?
Ooh, that's a tricky one. I guess, it really depends. Like if you're thinking, I want to work at this one company and it's this one company and their product only and nobody else, then yes, like definitely I would say, show the kind of content on your portfolio that most matches with that company's values and their products and their processes. But if you're open to like different industries and that kind of thing, then I wouldn't do that. I think the most important thing is finding the job descriptions out there that speak to you the most, and then using that as a starting off point of, okay, like what are the requirements and the skills that these ones ask of me or ask of this role, and then reflecting that on your portfolio and narrowing it down from there.
Awesome. I love that. I see a lot of questions rolling in from the audience, which is great. And so I'm going to hop over to segment 2, and then we'll jump to segment 3, which is Q&A from the audience. So thank you, everybody, for your questions, and keep them coming, please. Okay. Segment 2, Euphemia, is rapid fire round. Here we have prepared questions for you, and we hope to get a quick answer on them. So rapid fire. Our first question for you on our rapid fire round is, if you had a choice to choose any other career apart from UX, what would it be?
Data analyst.
Data analyst, very close to UX. Yeah, it's just like on the side. It's not the same, but yeah, interesting. Okay.
I would have said like volleyball, but that was like my dream when I was younger. Eventually I realized I wasn't good enough to be one. So there's that too.
Well, I mean, there are no barriers here. It could be anything, anytime. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So your next question. What do you do to overcome a creative block?
I go for a walk. Like, I think it's really important to just like shut off and then go for a walk, go outside, like, and really, like decompress and then get back to it if you're stuck.
And Vancouver is one of the best places for that, I would say. Well, minus the rain.
Yeah.
Minus the weather.
Yeah.
We have a lot of greenery here.
Yeah.
Your next question, the longest amount of hours you have worked in one session?
I'd say 4 hours.
In one sitting?
I think so.
4 hours.
Without getting up.
This is the good life of a UX lead, and the UX industry. Everything's so well organized. I love that. If you talk to like an animator, those poor guys, like they have to put in like really rough hours. What is a project that you would like to work on again?
I guess if I had to choose quickly, I would work on this project that I'm working on now, like Age of Empires 4 again, because looking back, there's so many things I would have wanted, to try or like to do differently potentially. So. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. One word to describe UX lead.
Communicative. That's if I had to choose one.
I like it. What's on your bedside table?
Phone charger.
Phone charger. Okay, nice. Yeah. I think everyone has to have one these days.
Yeah.
What's the last book you read or the last documentary you watched?
It was that college scandal documentary on Netflix. I think it's called something like Varsity Blues. But it's very interesting seeing
how that one guy works, right?
Yeah.
The one main I watched it myself, and because I read about the scandals and they didn't seem that bad, but when you watch the documentary, you get the UX behind.
Yeah.
Okay, and then our last question for rapid fire is, what do you do apart from your work to stay creative?
I think I really like trying, I guess, new things. I don't always stick with them, but I like trying new things because then it kind of forces me to like learn or like just attempt it in different ways. Most recently, starting to learn how to garden, as a lot of people are doing these days. So that's that's something fun to do. And that would be one of those things.
Very cool. Yeah, I love gardening myself. All right, so that brings us to our final segment, which is Q&A from our audience. So audience, thank you very much for being here and sharing your questions. And I will open up our Q&A panel right here. All right, we have a lot of questions for you, Euphemia. And we'll start with the first one, which is from Lawrence Yang. What is one thing that people generally do not know about your job? Great question. Love it.
Yeah, I guess like outside the industry or even sometimes within the industry, it's like as soon as you say design, like people a lot of the time assume like, aesthetics or visual art. But I guess, like I would say, there's a lot of like research that goes behind it and kind of the less visual stuff that goes behind like UX work. So that would be one thing that I'd say not everyone knows.
Mm-hmm. Totally see that. Another question from Lawrence Yang is, what is your favorite iOS game?
Pass. I haven't really played like specifically iOS games. But,
Got it. Okay. Awesome. And your next question is Michelle Yang, and she's asking, what would be one advice you would give to those who are entering UX UI design field with no experience? Great question.
Yeah, I would say like actually a lot of people, like especially if it's their first job or if they're changing careers, like, definitely go into it with zero experience. So I think I would say, when I first started out, it's a lot about like finding projects that you can do and then showcase your process on your portfolio. Whether regardless if it's like a paid project or if it's just like a school project or even just a side project that you dreamt out up, or you see a game or a product or an app where you want to personally improve upon it. That's where you can have the opportunity to showcase your skills and talents, regardless if you've had experience or not. So yeah, I would definitely look for side projects or freelance projects.
Very cool. Yeah, I think UX especially is evolving so rapidly and so fast, is that it's almost imperative sort of like show that trend and that you're staying on trend, right? All right. Your next question is from Hannah Sangra. Other than your degree in cognitive psychology, did you have any formal training in UX design? How did you start to get experience in UX?
Yeah, that's a great question. Other than kind of my like research and psychology side of things from like school, I think the key thing was my first software or tech job was I was actually doing sales, like marketing, and because I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I just wanted to try different things when I graduated. So luckily, like that company was like just a small 10-person company based in Burnaby. And because it was a smaller company, I was able to like wear a lot of different hats and just try a bunch of different things. So, while I worked there, I also went to school and also learned stuff online, like took some web development classes and took some UX and UI classes and like applied those as I was working at that restaurant tech company. So I applied everything from kind of project management skills to UX UI design skills. So that's kind of how I learned and then applied it kind of right away.
So getting some kind of training is actually really helpful in perhaps sort of even designing your portfolio, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. Like regardless of where it is, you kind of learn the UX and like UI, like design skills or just, web development skills or in general. It's really important, I think, to apply that right away onto, whether it's a freelance project or just a side project or a school project, so that you're really applying those concepts to, some work. Like
got it. Awesome. Jose Pablo Loza has your next question, starting off with, hi, Euphemia. Thank you for being here. As an international student who's planning on moving to Vancouver soon, what are some advantages and perks of being there rather than continuing online 100%?
Yeah, so you mean like working in the office versus remote work?
I believe moving to Vancouver and working here in the industry versus working online.
Remotely?
Yeah.
I think, I definitely miss just working in person at the office a lot. We've been working from home for like well over a year. It's almost like a year and a half now. Like it's worked out online. We're staying efficient as much as possible, but I really do miss the in-person aspect. There's a lot of things that you could have like easily just turned over and like kind of talked it out or discussed, different ideas and things like that. But with online, it's always, it's quick still, but it's very like impersonal and it's like chat and like, video calls. So there's definitely, I personally really enjoy both the in-person and the remote, but I think it's kind of a personal choice. I think remote is definitely doable for sure, like as the whole world has demonstrated. But I think it's almost a personal choice and the company's choice, whether you can do both or you can choose one or the other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's quite a range of answers there from different people. Marley Ordaz is asking, UX is becoming an important area for different tech apps. For someone who's looking to make a career in gaming like you, do you have any advice?
Sorry, I didn't catch that. So,
so UX is becoming an important area in different tech apps for someone who's looking to make a career in gaming like you. So she wants a career like yours. Do you have any advice for, UX for games, I guess? Right?
Yeah, for sure. That's a great question. If you have a specific industry in mind, like for example, in video games, I would definitely say that for your portfolio and like the kind of content and projects and skills you showcase should really reflect, the fact that you want to work in games. So the project should be, like improvements on your favorite mobile game or your favorite, console game, etc. So that's where you can really gear your work towards that.
So then show it on your portfolio that you've done some UX projects, whether or not they're client based, they can be driven by your passion or whatever. I don't think, especially in the first job, or like when people are changing their careers, like I don't think we're judging based on whether it's a paid project or if it's a side project or from school. It's really more about like your design process and how you think and how you break problems down. All right. Michelle Yang is asking, how would you differentiate between a good UX designer versus a poor UX designer? That's a good question.
Yeah, I guess definitely like that's not really, I guess, a black and white answer there. It all depends on what your project needs and what the team needs. I know this is not really a straight answer, but it depends. So like if the team has, if the team already has like say a visual designer and a researcher and like specialists, then as a UX designer you can really be more like niche and specialized. Whereas if you're on a team where it's like very small, like startup team, where they really need you as a product designer to be like quite well rounded and really have like a little bit of all the skills along the spectrum, that's where you would need to be that kind of designer. So it really depends like how you, what team you're going to join, and how you kind of mix in with them in terms of skill set. I would say, and then I guess in general, I think what really differentiates like a good UX designer versus maybe like not so good is, I do think attention to detail and also like communication is huge. Being the UX designer, you're really like the middle person, like between like all the different stakeholders. You're trying to understand what the business needs are and like what the users' needs are, but also, understanding like how your team works and like what other creative areas there are, especially in gaming. There's going to be game designers that you have to work with, audio designers, animators. So really just being able to be that middle person and be able to communicate with all of them. That's pretty key.
Amazing. Yeah, 100% agree. Lawrence Yang has a slightly different question for me, Nida. Nida, what is the secret of your current lighting and depth of field webcam setup? So Lawrence, thank you for that. And I'm using a 7D. It's connected to my Mac. The Canon 7 or Canon web app software is totally free. You can download it and connect any of your Canon beautiful cameras to your computers and use it as webcam. I love technical questions. Your next question, Euphemia, is from Hannah Sangra. What are some tips for breaking into games UX industry?
yeah, like, so I guess one, like the biggest thing is really making sure your portfolio reflects like that kind of content. And other ways are, like going to networking events. I know like now it's a lot, like very much virtual, but hopefully, we'll have in-person meetups soon. But there's definitely lots of different like game industry meetups or events and conferences that you can go to really get like immersed in that industry, so that when you do interview and when you do start working at games job, then you'll have kind of all of that knowledge to go.
Lots of questions, by the way. Next question is a great question, Marley Ordaz. How often do you test something? When you know something is ready, when do you know when something is ready to be released?
That's a great question. I don't know if I have like a very in-depth answer, but I think, as you gain more experience as a designer, you'll know, like, once you kind of do some user testing, once you do some kind of competitive analysis where you do enough research around it, that should get your product to at least like some kind of MVP. And then, I think you can never be like fully sure, because, it's only when it's launched and it's shipped does like all these millions of users like get to use it, and that's when you really know if it's good or not, or if there's like areas of improvement. But definitely, making sure you do your user testing and doing the research around it, getting feedback from other designers and other teams is how you can be more sure about it being ready.
Yeah, it's a never-ending kind of road, right? Tamara O is asking, what approaches do you use to explain why a certain UX design is better? How does this differ if it is in pre-production phase, not user base yet?
How do we prove that it's better?
How do we explain why a certain UX design is better when it's in pre-production phase and there's no user data?
Yeah. So similar to the other question, I guess. Making sure you do, like, even when I say user testing, it doesn't necessarily always have to be like your actual customers or your actual users. You can use people that you trust, like within the company, so that you're not like leaking any secrets or anything. But yeah, like user testing internally, and also doing that secondary research of the competitive analysis, and getting that feedback internally is really key. So that can all be done in pre-production, and it's not just when you launch.
Ishpreet Sekun is asking, as a UX lead, do you find you don't get to do as much as designing as you did previously, or do you prefer the leadership work?
Yeah, I think like, I feel like I have had to do like less design work for sure. But I don't know if it's because I'm like currently lead or anything like that. It's more like depends on the phase of the project. So, at least with my current project, there's very much like, the pre-pro and the production, and now like finaling stages. So now it's very much about like, looking at little things that we can improve, and like looking at bugs, and like almost putting that product owner hat on, like pairing up with our producers, our project managers, to work with them on that, and prioritizing things. So kind of on the strategy side, whereas like pre-pro was very much more about like concepts and ideating with designers and creating those prototypes and wireframes. So I think it depends more on the stage of the project. But yeah.
Tamara O, what resources, books, talks, Twitter accounts would you recommend for someone interested in creating better UX for in-studio tools? Do you have different suggestions for player-facing UX?
I think I wish I had the name of those books, but I think there's a few that Celia Hodent had published recently, or well, not super recently, a couple years back. It's called like Games User Research. I think that book's really great. You know, it talks about UX, but like very much from a games point of view, games industry point of view. But yeah, I think there's lots of resources out there. You know, when I was first starting out and learning about UX, like there was a bunch of books that I read as well, but I'm like struggling to remember specifically, but there was like information architecture. I think it was like O'Reilly series. Those really helped me learn like how to card sort and like do all those things. So yeah.
Okay. The next question is Peria Corfield. Any suggestions on how to improve UX skills?
Yeah, I would say definitely practice, like, you know, reading up on it, like making sure you understand like kind of the methodology and the reasoning behind, you know, all the UX work that we do, really understanding the usability and like heuristics. And so that like there's the knowledge side of it, and then also the practice side of it, and really making sure you apply those concepts to actual projects. Again, whether they're like freelance projects or school projects or.
My camera is dying, Lawrence. You're watching. These are the other repercussions of having a fancy camera here. All right, next question. Celestia Augustine is asking, when you finally decided what you wanted to do, when you finally decided you wanted to do UX, what was your prep like? Meaning, did you do courses? If yes, which one and from where? Did you already have experience?
Yeah, so I would say the main experience I had from, I guess, from UBC was like on the academic research side. So I learned a lot of kind of like data analysis methods, and got to practice on that side of things. But in terms of design, I didn't really learn that until like later on. So as I mentioned before, I was very much coupling my kind of work at the 10-person kind of startup where I got to wear many hats and just tried to insert myself any way that I could, and just tried to do designs wherever I was given the chance to, and ask for those opportunities. But then in terms of courses, I also coupled that with at the same time, I think I took courses at BCIT where I did some web development. So I learned, you know, a lot about like HTML, CSS, and a little bit of JavaScript. And then also, I think there was like 1 or 2 UX or UI design courses. They weren't super in depth, but I did still learn a lot and enjoy it a lot, because the concepts that I learned there really matched what I was learning online. So that way I knew what I was learning online or reading up in books like really was actually correct. So it's good to kind of have both of that in unison. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And Cassandra Yanis is asking, was it difficult for you to find jobs after going out of your area of study and then entering into UX?
I think it was a bit difficult for me at first, because I really had to explain the story and explain why, like, my understanding of cognitive science applied to UX design. I think at the time, you know, there was recruiters didn't really understand UX design. So they would ask like, oh, you know, cognitive science and research, how does that have anything to do with UX design? Well, let me tell you, like, you know, UX design was born out of cognitive science research. So yeah, so there was just kind of a lack in knowledge there at the time. But I think in the last several years, it's been a lot better. I think, you know, people are really aware of what UX design is, what UI design is. what it takes, for like UX research. So I think there's much more knowledge out there now. Yeah.
Agreed. It's growing, but it's much better than what we had before, like say a decade ago.
Yeah,
it's growing more rapidly, I feel like.
Yeah, and like to add to that a bit, sorry, I remember the job descriptions when I first started out. It like the job descriptions themselves were also not actually very UX specific. It literally tried to, like, oh, you should know C++ and like JavaScript and all those things. But the role itself was supposed to be like UX design or UI design. So, yeah, I don't see that now at all, really. It's very specific now and actually specific to the actual role of UX or UI. So, yeah, it's much better now.
Richard Falconer is asking, should I have any graphic design content on my portfolio so it's not just my 2 case studies?
Yeah, I guess that depends on, what kind of designer you want to portray yourself as and sell yourself as when you apply to the jobs. Because, there's certainly jobs out there that want kind of that whole like well-rounded skill set. So in that way, it's really great to have your graphic design content as well as your case studies. But yeah, it really depends on what kind of role you want. So I think I would go back to, again, looking at the different job descriptions out there and which one speaks to you the most, and then using that as a jump off point to figure out what content to show on your portfolio.
Cassandra Yanis has 2 questions. Her first question is, how was your experience in school?
My experience, do you mean like when I did studied like psychology and research at UBC, or was it kind of more the industry like design work at BCIT?
I would say the industry design work.
Yeah, I guess my experience, it was fun. It was in-person classes because that was like pre-pandemic, a long time ago. But it was fun because I got to do like work on projects with other people, and also get a taste of like being in a group of designers. Like, how do we kind of give each other feedback and how do we work together? Whereas when I was working at the 10-person company, I was like one of the very few designers, so there wasn't as much like feedback sessions or things like that. So school really gave me the opportunity to have that real world experience working on projects as a team.
Cassandra Yaniv's next question is, how did you get to be in the position you are now with a heart? So a heart like emoji. Me, as a woman, I think there's less opportunities to get a job because women in UX are, not seen that much. I want to study film. So what advice could you give me not to give up my dreams and also to get a job?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know a whole lot about the film industry specifically, but, within tech and games industry, I haven't felt very much like, oh, because I'm a woman, like, or female, that I am treated a certain way. I've been pretty lucky in most of my experiences in my company that I don't get treated differently. So, hopefully that shed some light on, it might not be as bad as people might think, but it really depends on the company, of course. Like, I've seen certainly, some news out there, whether it's like bigger companies or startups that have issues. So, I definitely wouldn't hold yourself back because of some of those news pieces. I would definitely just go for, what you want. But like, as soon as you hear, if you hear that, it's not the best culture, definitely like, be wary and, look for something else. But there's certainly lots of great companies out there, lots of great teams, lots of great people to work with. So definitely don't let that idea or thought like hold you back.
Piria Corfield, Are most companies following UX procedure 100%? Good
I would
question.
say no, just because um, no, because I think there's just so many moving parts, and the process can be pretty complex. I think, at least in my experience, working on, Age of Empires, and working on, other projects, there's just so many moving parts, and it can't be a perfect design bubble of we get unlimited time to test out every single thing and design and iterate many times. That's just not reality, because at the end of the day, it's a business, and we have to make sure we kind of do things on time and within scope. So I wouldn't say that it's always the 100% ideal UX process, but we definitely try to choose the right things to work on, and choose the right amount of time that we want to work on it as much as possible. So
that's a great question.
Mhm.
Lawrence Yang has another question. He's asking, do you have a favorite TED Talk or YouTube whiteboard diagram about ideal principles of success in your workplace?
I used to watch more TED Talks, but nowadays I don't watch as many TED Talks. About ideal principles for success in my workplace. I guess in general, ideal principles is just transparency and respect, and communication. I guess if I had to pick maybe top of mind, those are the three things, regardless of whether it's games industry or tech or what industry. At the end of the day, I think people feel most safe and most motivated to do their work when everyone's communicative and transparent, and being respectful of each other. So I found that anytime that a team or a company has that mindset, I think that's where I see kind of the best work being done.
Yeah, beautiful. I love that. Yeah. Tamara O. By the way, the questions keep rolling. Tamara O, what kind of future holds for UX? What to watch out for right now? So what's the future for UX going to be like? That's a very cool question.
It's super cool. I guess there's definitely gonna be a lot more. I feel like there's more jobs out there for sure. I've seen in the last several years, the trend is certainly, UX is definitely very much recognized as a discipline. Not just in games, not just in tech. Even the banking industry. There's this thing called customer service design as well, which might be something you guys want to look into as well. But yeah, there's definitely lots of opportunity out there. And I find in terms of the kind of tools we use to design, I feel so far I've seen it changes almost every 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be Photoshop, and then Sketch, and then now it's Figma. So I think tools will just constantly keep evolving and keep changing. But yeah, I think there's just lots of opportunity for UX work.
Mm-hmm. Christopher Mariani. Hey, Euphemia, do you have any examples of some good and bad UX portfolios?
I don't have any links or specific ones in mind, but I would say, in general, a bad portfolio would probably be one that doesn't explain the design process and kind of only shows the final output. And then a good portfolio, I guess, would be, really talking about your design process. What was the problem you solved? How you broke it all down. What was your personal contribution to it in relation to your team members? What did they work on versus what did you work on? Hope that helps.
To have proper workflow and case study and all the details and the process there. Absolutely. Michelle Yang is asking, how did you personally prepare for UX product design related interviews?
I would say, I think think one big piece of advice, like I wish I could have given myself when I first started, was maybe not to over prepare, because I remember when I was first trying to get that first or second job, like I over prepared and I like rehearsed like what to say and that kind of thing. But I think eventually I realized I almost always do better when I just like kind of relax and not like worry about rehearsing every, what to say, just like be yourself and speak from, what your own experience is. So in terms of how I would now like prepare, I guess, I would just look at your own, like our own like resume, refresh our memories on like what we did, be able to talk about them generally. So that would be how I would prepare.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, being present. Beautiful. Okay. So second last question. Ashpreet Sekon is asking, game production schedules often have a lot of tight deadlines. Do you ever find UX work gets pushed from milestones not being necessary to the MVP? Or do your teams already have an appreciation for UX problems?
Yeah, I think it definitely varies from team to team and like company to company. But I would say like even if our team like has definitely like a really good appreciation for UX problems and problems in the user interface that would really affect the user and the player, I still think there's always going to be when the UX or UI design work gets pushed or doesn't get to be done because it isn't necessary to the MVP. And a lot of times, like ourselves, like as designers, we can have blinders on and think, oh, like this, this button, this specific color or how it works, like, is so important. Like players will definitely notice and it's so bad. But at the end of the day, we need to ask ourselves these tough questions and really know, like, is this actually like going to be really obvious, and is it going to really change the quality of the project or not, if you like kind of step back from just like the day-to-day and the little nitty-gritty details. So I guess the answer is yes, definitely it happens, but also we don't want to spend like many years on the wrong things, right? We want to get that product out there and just hear feedback and then improve upon it. So it's definitely a balance. That's I would say the hardest part about making good like quality games is that those decisions are really tough.
Mm-hmm. And thank you so much, everyone, our audience today for being here. We're going to wrap up our Q&A session with this one last question for Euphemia. And this is from Marley Ordaz. She is asking, what do you prefer, Sketch, Figma, or Adobe XD?
I think I can't really choose one because I feel like at every different company so far, I've had to use a different tool. So I think when I was at Clio, it was using Sketch because we all had Macs to work on. And then at EA, it was Adobe XD because we didn't have Macs and it was like Windows only. And then now like at Relic, it was like Asher that we used for prototyping, but now Figma, is more the newer thing. So now we're also using that. So I think there's like pros and cons to all of them. And I can't really choose one because I feel like they all kind of do the same thing in different ways. So.
Mm-hmm. All right. Euphemia, that's a wrap for our segment 3 for our Q&A round. And thank you so much for answering all these questions. Audience, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for being a part of our design community, where we get to bring amazing people like Euphemia from the creative tech industry to come and share their insights. We do hope that you can check out our upcoming talks on vfs.edu. So there's lots of information there. And Euphemia, it's been Such a pleasure having you here. And take out this time to talk and share and open up the world of UX for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Those were some really great questions, and it's really nice. I'm honored to be here. So thank you.
Yes, and we should be watching out for your ladies in UX coming up in the summer, right?
Yeah, hopefully we'll have another event soon. Otherwise, in the fall, we're gonna hopefully start up again. So
absolutely, and then we're going to have to invite you back here for another DD talk.
yeah.
And until then, take care. Everybody, take care and stay safe. And it's a wrap for today. All right then.
Thanks again.
Bye, everyone.